Jon Andoni Lekue. Jon Andoni is a Basque lawyer and activist for Basque independence. He was active in the Basque youth movement first, considered by the Spanish authorities as linked to the outlawed ETA Euskadi Ta Askatasuna, or which actually means Basque Homeland and Freedom. The ETA has struggled violently for the independence of the Basque country, which straddles Spain and France, although 90% of its population does live on the Spanish side. Jon Andoni Lekue later joined Batasuna, which was considered the political wing of the ETA, until that was outlawed by the Spanish government in 2003. Since then, he has been involved in continuous attempts to seek international mediation in the conflict between the Spanish state and Basque independency advocates. The latest initiative of which he is part is the Basque Peace Process.
The Basque Country, we'll start with the general introduction. The Basque Country, or Euskal Herria in our language, is spread at both sides of the French and Spanish border. It's a stateless country divided in three main administrative systems, 2 states with over 3 million inhabitants. Out of those, more than 600,000 are fluent Basque speakers, a pre-Indo-European language that has no known relation with any other language. The permanent denial of the Basque Country by France and Spain has encountered various forms of response and national self-affirmation. Since 1959, ETA has put up an armed struggle for independence and socialism for the 7 provinces of the Basque Country. For years, Basque citizens have created different collectives, organizations, and political parties that from a nationalist, or in our language, abertzale and left perspective, have worked on every aspect of society for independence and socialism. During the last 30 years of democracy, or so-called democracy at least, there have been different attempts to resolve the conflict. After the collapse of the last negotiation process on 2006 and 2007, this collapse brought back multilateral violence, and in October 2009, Arnaldo Otegi and other prominent activists of the pro-independence left were arrested. In the last 3 years, the situation of the Basque conflict has evolved positively. The unilateral decision of the abertzale left to opt for an exclusively political strategy, and ETA's positive response to the international conference held in San Sebastian last October 2011 has opened the path for the resolution of the last armed conflict in Europe. The panel made a public declaration including 5 recommendations directed mainly to ETA and both French and Spanish governments. On the 20th October 2011, ETA responded to the request of the international conference and released a statement declaring a definitive cessation of its armed activity. But the end of the armed struggle doesn't mean the end of the political conflict. A new scenario has been opened, and I consider that in order to put an end to the political conflict, Basque political parties should establish a multi-party dialogue to address the causes of the conflict. Unfortunately, Spanish and French governments have responded negatively to this new situation. Both try to avoid the democratic debate of ideas and projects that are determined by a complete absence of violence. The lack of democracy and the denial of the right of the Basque people to freely determine their own future are the roots of the conflict. The Spanish and French governments are afraid of the word and the power of decision of Basque citizens, and therefore they oppose to be part in a comprehensive resolution process of the conflict. Anti-terror measures and blacklists are nowadays the main obstacle to build up negotiation and democratic process. Often they are used as blackmail on the negotiation table or to take profit of the unequal situation of the opponent. States cover each other's political interests in order to defeat political movements, and the process of listing is totally obscure and undemocratic. The same could be said about delisting organizations. Are these organizations terrorists forever? Who decides when they are not anymore terrorist organizations? In the Basque case, the Spanish state has been using different methods to stop the political strength of the Basque pro-independence movement. Torture, killings, deportation, imprisonment, all kinds of violent methods have been used massively against the Basque citizens. Since 1998, as a part of their struggle against the Abertzale left, the successive Spanish government have used the old ETA strategy to outlaw different social and political organizations as well as different media. This strategy defends that all the organizations of the Basque pro-independence movement act upon ETA's order, and so all of the members of those different groups are members of a terrorist organization. Aznar government, right-wing government, very close friend of George Bush, took advantage of the international context created after the attacks on the Twin Towers on September 11, 2001, to develop further its repressive policies. Basque organizations were listed in the US and the EU anti-terrorist list. Violence or terrorism, using official terms or concepts, is just an excuse to escape from a political dialogue to solve conflicts. We have not only a systematic lack of democracy, but a systemic lack of democracy. The present capitalist system, its politicians, and many of the states which are maintaining it, wish to keep peoples and citizens away of the political, economic, or institutional strategic decision-making. The pillars of the current situation are based on the privileges of few and the general oppression of peoples and popular classes. A ruling class, which is represented by so opaque institutions and lobby groups such as the IMF, European Central Bank, Goldman Sachs, Standard & Poor's, decides on the living condition of millions of people. The model of democracy defended by the pro-independence left is the antithesis of the contemporary capitalist practices and ideas. As it is clear that the solution of the Basque conflict will come by giving the free word and decision to the people, the opinion and public participation is essential to create a new, truly democratic political framework in order to build a new institutional, economic, social, and cultural context. I would like to point out that beyond the limits of French and Spanish states and of the dictatorship of the markets, around the world there are very positive signals and processes that allowed us to see the future with courteous optimism. The Bolivarian process with its various forms of democratic expressions in the individual countries, Venezuela, Bolivia, Ecuador. Some democratic uprisings in the Arab countries. The lesson of democratic courage in Iceland, and new global movements against neoliberal nonsense as the Occupy movement, or why not, this conference itself, are facts from where the Basque pro-independence movement has to learn. I think that Basque people have learned last centuries of conflict that democracy and recognition of fundamental rights has little to do with the definition and interpretation of the ruling states. It is an ongoing process of struggle.